Hello, hello, hello. I think we're live now. If you are in here, welcome. And I'm going to just kind of do like a Q&A sort of thing for the first 10 minutes, let people arrive. So if you are here, looks like Carson's here. Where are you guys from? What projects are you guys working on? Drop some comments and let me know. I'm also just going to double check that the sound's coming through good. Sounds good to me. Cool. So as people stroll in, we'll hang out here. And I'm actually going to go live on my Instagram here also. So just because, hey, I'm doing a live stream on my YouTube up here, which if you are on my YouTube, you know that already. If you're on my Instagram, I'm going to cut the Instagram feed off in like a few minutes, but I'm going to let it run for now because I'm doing a live stream on here. If you guys are just showing up, drop a comment. Where are you guys from? Where are you guys from? What are you guys working on? What projects are you doing? Hey guys. Kaja. See James Photo. Where are you guys from? What are you guys working on? I want to know what you're getting your hands dirty with. We're going to do like 10 minutes here of Q&A before we start this workshop. I have been working on trying to restructure a few projects for myself and things that I'm kind of like coming to the end of the year, trying to wrap everything up, looking at my books, and the pricing thing is super topical to that. So it looks like we have someone from Brazil. Wow, that's awesome. That is super far from me. I've never been there and I really would love to go. So if you guys are here, let me know where you're from. Let me know what you're working on. Ursa Mini Pro versus Eva 1. Oh man, I don't even know what either of those are. I'm kind of embarrassed. Hold on, let me Google that. Ursa Mini Pro. I'm not like a super gear person. Okay, so that's a Blackmagic camera. I've never used Blackmagic. So I cannot speak to that. And then I'm assuming Eva 1 might be a Blackmagic camera. Oh, it's Panasonic. Super 35. I don't know. I can't talk to that. I've never used either of those cameras. I'm not familiar with them. I have used Panasonic before, so I don't know. But I just Google it and research it and watch some YouTube videos. Living in Norway recently, waiting for a new project to come. Berlin, Perth. Oh, what up, dude? Perth. I've never been to Norway. I've never been to Berlin, but I have been to Perth. I went there with my wife, Chelsea, like a couple years ago, and we had a fantastic time in Perth, so that was awesome. Paris, France, never been there either. I've been to Europe. I've been to like Spain, Portugal, Croatia, Bosnia, Montenegro, but never France. I need to go back to Europe again. But that was that same trip. Hey guys, Instagram down there. There's a link in my bio on my Instagram for the YouTube live, which is going to be the main source for the live stream. So if you guys are here, jump over there onto the YouTube live, and that's where we're really gonna get things going. And we're gonna start pretty soon. Let's see how long we've been going here. I wanted to give it like about 10 minutes to let everyone show up. So it's been about 3 minutes. So if you're just showing up, drop where you're from, drop some questions, kind of just doing a Q&A. Tell me about the project you guys are working on. The film guy, what brought you out to Perth? Well, so my wife Chelsea and I, we had both, been working hard. She had a full-time job, and we were thinking about moving. We lived in New Hampshire, which is near Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States on the East Coast. And we were like, oh, we want to move. But then we're like, no, fuck it, we're going to go travel. So we decided to travel, and we took 2 months off. She quit her job. I kind of told my clients that I was taking a break, and we traveled around the entire world. We circumferenced, I think that's the word, the world, which was amazing. And Perth was our stop in Western Australia. So Western, right? It's Western, right? So that was our stop. We were on the other side of Australia for 3 weeks, flew across. We didn't drive across, which would have been awesome. But yeah, so Perth was pretty amazing, and it was just came as tourists, I guess. Hey guys, YouTube. I'm checking on the Instagram down here because I'm live down here, guys. Also, so if you're checking out my live on Instagram, I am doing a live stream on my YouTube channel, which that camera's up here, and there's a link in my bio if you want to join the YouTube channel. We're going to talk about freelancing and pricing your work as a freelancer, and that's going to start in like 4 minutes. So if you guys are on here and you want to get my take, what's up, Ryan? If you guys want to get my take on how I price my work, and I'm going to kind of tell you my backstory of how I price my work from way in the beginning till 11 years later, and how I'm pricing it now, and share some insights related to that. So if you want to tune into my YouTube channel. All right, so watching B-roll and subscribe. I'm interested in cinematic photograph. Nice, yeah. The B-roll video. A lot of people have watched that, and a lot of you guys may have come from my B-roll videos. So if you did watch that, I encourage you to check out some of my other content. I've kind of made a list on my homepage. It's like I forget what it's called, but it's like my favorite videos or whatever. And I think those are the most helpful ones. There's one about like one tip every cinematographer needs to know. That's a really good video. Spokane, Washington. Oh wow, right around the corner, man. Welcome, Matt. Knockout Media. Welcome. Let's see. Working on a film project for an animal hospital. That's awesome, dude. I love dogs. I wanted to be a vet when I was growing up, and I worked at a vet's office, and then I was like, I don't want to do this, but I love animals. So, hey, Aaron. Happy to see you. I just booked my very first paid gig yesterday. 6 stacked images for $250, and aiming for more video work than photos. Aaron, what do you mean 6 stacked images for $250? Is that like you're doing like a high dynamic range sort of image, or what does that mean? I'm not sure what you mean. Welcome from New Jersey. Welcome, Tom. Richmond. Welcome, Gerald. Romania. That's awesome. I was sort of over in that neck of the woods, Gabriel. I had mentioned earlier I was in Croatia, Montenegro, and Bosnia. So I think that's sort of close to there. Are there gigs that you don't do? Yeah, definitely. There's gigs that I don't do. So yeah, the whole idea of getting to that point where you are saying no to certain things, that's a place to be for sure. Can you tell us about your setup for live stream? Looks really good. Yeah, Matt. Actually, I know there's not a lot of people on my Instagram, and this might be, I don't know. If you guys jump on my Instagram, it's at Nick's Fort. I will give you a look at my live stream. So I'll give you a minute there, Matt, to jump in there if you want. Hey, everyone here in Instagram. I'm doing a live stream on my YouTube, and if you want to see the setup, it's kind of janky. So we've got a C200 right here, and that is rigged into my edit suite right here, and that's with an HDMI. And I installed a streaming card. It's an Elgato streaming card in my PC tower, which is down there. I've got this shotgun mic coming up right here. We've got a big softbox 120D up here, and then this is kind of like my monitoring station on my laptop, and that's pretty much the live stream right there. Hope you saw that, Matt. If not, you at least heard it on here. All right, we're coming up on 10 minutes here. Welcome everyone. I'm super excited. If you I should have said this earlier, but I'll put a tag. I'll drop a pinned comment below noting when we actually start this workshop. Okay, well, let's see. Toronto. What's up, Toronto? Just got my first published photography gig and just bought on that magazine to shoot all their video content. That's cool, man. Doing photo and video together is something that we're definitely going to talk about in this little workshop. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this out. I'm gonna read this because I think it's important to preface this, and I don't want to get it wrong. So forgive me for not like looking in the camera, but I just want to make sure I share this bit of information for you. So we're going to talk about freelancing and pricing your work as a freelancer. And if you guys are live on Instagram, I'm going to cut this off. Go to the link in my bio to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys on YouTube, which is up here. So I'm only sharing what I know. Pricing and bidding on work is very complicated. My hope is to empower you guys to price your work for your needs and price your work to make a sustainable income. I'm sharing my approach as like a solo filmmaker / small production company. This may or may not work for you. Take what you like and leave what you don't. And please research further on this topic to find out what works best for you. There's a lot of information and approaches that I'm not even familiar with out there related to pricing. I'll note that I structure a lot of this information related to the U.S. tax system. So I'm in the United States, and I kind of like tried to move away from a lot of that. So most of this will apply to you if you're not in the United States. But there are a couple little things in here that are going to be even stronger for you if you're in the United States, because that's where I live. So I also reached out to some other fellow filmmakers and production companies and freelancers to kind of like round out this information before I did this. So if you are one of my friends that I reached out to, thank you for sending along that information and kind of sharing your thoughts, because that's super helpful for everyone. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? The first thing I'm going to talk about is my history of pricing, okay? I'm going to kind of start at the beginning 11 years ago when I started freelancing and walk through that to kind of where I am now and kind of give you like some real examples, how much I charge and how much I made and things like that. And then we're going to talk about kind of the problem of pricing, and we're going to look at questions like how much to charge, how to structure your pricing, having multiple projects, and how and having multiple approaches for pricing. What happens if a client says it's too much, or what happens if you don't get a job. And in kind of talking about that stuff, we're also going to be talking about reviewing this pricing worksheet that I have. So I'm going to actually show you guys this pricing worksheet that I've created and share it with you and walk you through how I use it. And, you know, that's going to talk about expenses. That's going to talk about having different rates. That's going to talk about, you know, looking at your income goals and tracking your income. And then at the end of this, I'm actually going to share that sheet with you guys, but I'm going to ask you guys to let me know what you think it's worth. And I'm going to put that on my website. And I'm also going to add another sweet deal for that, something special to pair with that at the end of this. So you guys will have access to that sheet, which I would be stoked if I was you, because it took me a long time to make it. It was pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to check on the chat real quick, but I'm kind of not really going to pay too much attention to that while I go into all this stuff. So I'm going to ask what the focal length on this stream is. All right, so I'm going to kind of save those questions for the end, but let me look. So 22, 24-ish. So we're going to jump in right now, history of pricing. So 11 years ago, I worked at VH1, and that was my first job, and it was freelance, and I was on a big contract, so 6 months long, and I would work for 50 hours a week, and I got paid $650 US dollars a week, and that worked out to be $13 an hour, and that was my first job. That was 11 years ago, and I was a freelance production assistant. And as I worked there, one of my jobs was to collect the timesheets for all of the other people on my production team. So associate producer, segment producer, editors, all these other people on the team. My job was to get their timesheets, and I would collect them. And when I collected them, I would see how much money they made. And that was really, really useful to get an insight on what the industry standards were for those roles in that capacity, right? VH1 is a cable TV network in the United States that it was like MTV, music videos, stuff like that. So they made TV shows, right? So it's broadcast TV shows. So in doing that, I'm going around collecting timesheets, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I found out that the editors made $75 an hour. And $75 an hour as an editor. Let's see, and you worked 50 hours a week. And if I worked 50 weeks a year and had 2 weeks off, right, I would make $187,500. That's a lot of money. Like, that was, like, I saw that and I was super, super stoked. I was like, wow, if I'm an editor, I can make a lot of money. Like, I have to work a lot, right? But that was exciting for me to understand that in this world you can make a good living as a creator. And this was in New York City. This was 11 years ago, and that was a lower rate than commercial. So commercial is even more expensive, right? So I was like, wow, I can really do something here. That's exciting. So I started doing assistant editing. I started freelancing as an assistant editor, and I made $25 an hour, and I would do it into overtime on the weekends, and I would make $37.50 an hour. So I was like really excited about like getting some money doing that, right? And that was awesome. I did that for like a year, and I freelanced there, and then I started to move into some other work. And I'm kind of just be vague. I'm not going to say the client names, but I got on a tour, and I was traveling on this tour, and they offered to pay me $1,000 a week, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. That's so much more than the $650 I was making. So I got to go do that, and then I saved up, bought a camera, and then with that camera, I got my first. I think like a year later, I got my first freelance job. And that was with like an agency, like a real big agency, and they paid me $500 a day. And I was like, yeah, $500 a day. This is awesome. You know, go out, film, edit, $500 a day for everything. And then within a couple of months, I kind of moved that up to $550. I was making $550 a day. And then as the years went on, I kind of just increased the pricing. As the years went on, I didn't really think about it. I was kind of like shooting in the dark. I wasn't talking to other creatives. I didn't really have any logic behind my pricing. And that was it was super stressful, and it was scary, and like it wasn't the best. So I wouldn't recommend that approach. The approach that I'm going to share with you guys, I would definitely recommend this better. So the first things first, one, you want to find out what's competitive in your market, right? So I wish I had spoke with other creatives who were working in the same role as me and doing the same kind of stuff as me, and found out how much they charge, because that's a really, really important thing to do when you're trying to price your work. So if you're a freelance cinematographer and you live in Boston, and you want to find out how much to charge, there should be a range. There's kind of a market value for that, right? And it might be $800 to $5,000, depending on the size of the project. But there is a range, and you kind of can talk to people. So maybe you do hospital videos, and you talk to other people who are doing hospital videos, and they're cinematographers for the production companies that do that kind of work, and the crew is 6 people, and you kind of like narrow in on that, and you say how much you guys making. And that can be awkward, but you approach it with a genuine approach. When you're talking to someone, you're like, I'm trying to be fair to myself in this industry, right? You're not trying to be competitive. You're not gonna try to screw someone over by going lower, which is another whole thing we'll talk about. But yeah, finding out how much people charge in your network, in your industry where you are, is a huge thing to do. Sorry guys, I'm just looking at the chat here. Okay, so to recap that, first thing you want to do related to pricing is you want to talk to other people who are doing the same sort of thing as you in your market, and try to find out how much they're charging. And that's kind of awkward, and it can be weird. But if you're doing it with a genuine interest in having a sustainable career, I think you're going to find that people will be more open to it than you expect. So now we're going to kind of look at this pricing worksheet that I created, okay? Let's see. So I'm going to just do a little quick shifty poo in the live stream setup. Oh, whoops. And let me just make sure that looks right. So you guys should be seeing the screen, and you guys should see me in the corner. Cool, awesome. So this pricing formula document that I created, I have to first give credit to Story and Heart. They're a filmmaking academy that I'm a member of, and they are amazing, and I learned so much stuff from them. This is not sponsored by them at all, but they are awesome. And I'll drop a link below so you guys can go check out the academy, and they do deals all the time and stuff like that. So go check it out. It's super valuable. But this pricing document that I created is kind of based off one piece of a longer tutorial called the Team of One Filmmaking, and they go through like how to be a solo filmmaker, start to finish, and they so much information. And this is in one of the lessons, and this is part of one of those lessons. So this formula is not something that I think someone passed it along to them, and now I'm going to pass it along to you guys. And I've kind of taken it and put it on like steroids in this document. So let me make sure I got that all right. So make sure that you modify this to fit your specific situation. Remember that all businesses are different, markets are different, cost of living is different, and all that stuff. So actually, let me flip back to the full screen here. I want to just talk about one more thing before we get into this. So first things first, before you dive into that pricing formula document, the first step that you need to do is you need to find out what your cost of living is and how much money you want to make. And that's super important. So what I did, and again, this might not be the same thing for you, what I did was Google Sheets has a bunch of templates, and they have an annual budget template. And so I went and filled out that annual budget template, and I found out how much my expenses in a year would be for how I want to live, for the level of the quality of life that I am interested in having. And I took that number and I basically made a bottom, like minimum amount, and then I also made like the ideal amount, right? And I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but let's just say, you're living in America, and in America, your bottom, like after taxes, take home, you want it to be $40,000, right? Let's just say that's what it is. But your ideal amount is $60,000, okay? So you need to go through that step one, figure out how much money you want to make, and don't just say, I want to make a bunch of money. Like, that's great, but like really, like find out how much money you need to make to pay your rent, to buy food, to get gas, to like do all that stuff. So like this is big boy stuff. You got to figure this stuff out first, and then you're going to move into this pricing document. So that's step one, is to figure that out. Now that you figure that out, if you look on the top of this document in the corner up here, let's see if I can zoom in. No, that's not how you do it. Anyways, if you look up the top here in the corner, we have our take-home goal. And this is just an example. This isn't actually my document. This is the document that I made as the example document for you guys. But you have your take-home goal up here, which is $58,000, right? And then you have your take-home minimum, which is $40,000. And you have your pre-tax salary goal, which is $90,000. And then on the left side over here, we have a couple of different categories. So this document is pretty complicated, so you're gonna have to stick with me and kind of like work through this as we go, and it'll all make sense at the end. But over here we have a solo filmmaker category, and we have a DP category, and we have a production company category. So I wanted to share with you guys the multiple levels of kind of like pricing for your work. So you can have different scenarios, because for me, as I've worked, I've had people want me to shoot photos. I've had people want me to be a marketer. I've had people want me to speak. I've had people want me to, be a production company. I've had people want me to be a cinematographer. I'll be an editor. So finding out rates for these for yourself that are going to work for you is important, I think. So I've done in this template, we have 3 different rates. So this is kind of overview, and at the end, this will come full circle. But in this scenario, this person has made $21,000 as a solo filmmaker in a year, and they've made $31,000 as a DP, and they've made $62,000 as a production company. And let me define those real quick. So solo filmmaker is start to finish, soup to nuts. You do everything. So you concept it with the client, you film it with the client by yourself, you excuse me, edit it for the client, and you deliver it to the client. So from start to finish, you are doing everything. You're not hiring anyone. You have very limited expenses. That's kind of the solo filmmaker approach. And that can apply to tons of different industries. I mean, if you think about weddings, that could be a very good example of that. Excuse me, guys. Approach. I'm going to get a little water. Okay. And then the next level here, we have a DP. So that's like a cinematographer. And that would be you working on a crew as a cinematographer, you working for a production company, an agency, whatever. You're hired to be the DP cinematographer. And then the production company level is kind of if you're running a bigger picture thing. So sometimes I will have a project where I'm going to hire 6 different crew, and we're going to have to manage talent, and we're going to have to do all this other stuff beyond me doing it myself or me being part of someone else's team. You're kind of running the whole show. So that's the production company level, right? And then next to it, we have COGS, okay? And COGS stands for cost of goods sold. And that is a, basically, cost of goods sold is the cost of creating something. So for video production, that cost is going to be any materials you have for that particular shoot, that one shoot, right? So let's say you do a shoot where you're filming a music video and you have your talent covered in green paint. You're going to chroma key that out, which I'm going to make a tutorial about this music video that I shot with my friend, and it's super dope, and that's what we did. But anyways, the paint that you have for that video, that's a cost of goods sold, right? The production assistant you hired for that video only, that's a cost of goods sold. So your labor for that, your materials for that, those are cost of goods sold. So we have that column over here. And then your expenses are different than your cost of goods sold. And we're going to actually jump over to the expenses tab right now. And I'm going to take a moment here and see if there's any questions real quick. So the spreadsheet is on my website right now, I think. Let me, and I was honestly like what I was going to do. Someone asked where the spreadsheet is. And let's see, clients. So I'm going to drop a link in there to the spreadsheet. What I was going to do was ask you guys at the end of this to tell me how much you think the spreadsheet's worth. And then, you guys basically price it for what you think it's worth. But it is on my website right now, and it's up there for $10, which kind of is, I don't know, influence. I just put $10 in there randomly. But anyways, if you want to go buy it now and do it, you can. But you also could wait. I'll drop a link from my other random channel there. So that would get you to the spreadsheet if you want it right now. Otherwise, you can just watch along and then get it after. Okay, cool. So expenses. In this expense tab on the spreadsheet, we have our total expenses at the top, and that is all of these expenses that we see here. I'm not going to dive like super deep into this, but I'm going to kind of walk through it. I've made 2 categories. One is flexible expenses and one is hard expenses. So from my perspective, and this is going to be different for everyone, when I look at my business, there's certain things that I'm going to spend money on every year for an expense. And then there's certain things that I'm not going to spend money on, or I could, maybe, we'll see. So if we look at advertising, right? In here, we have client gifts, which if you haven't seen my client gifts video, I will put that link in the comments below after the video is done. So if you're watching this, you can go check that out. It's client gifts are super, super dope, and they're really effective. So it is a flexible expense. I have not done them at times, but it's a very useful thing to do. Squarespace, my website's got to be up, right? So that's who I use for my website. So I'm going to spend that money every year. It's a hard expense. Branded gear, like, I have this cup right here that my buddy Lucas made for me, Fortland Productions. So my production company is actually called Fortland Productions. Nick's Fort is like my personal element of that. So branded gear would be stuff like that, a Yeti mug. Event sponsorships, sometimes you want to sponsor an event, social media ad spend, whatever, So as you go through here, you can see the different things, flexible versus hard. And these categories: advertising, meals and entertainment, commissions and fees, employee benefit, insurance, legal fees, rent. All of those bolded categories are the categories on your tax form. If you are in the United States, that is going to fit right into your tax form, which is super useful and awesome. It makes things easy. And like I use QuickBooks now. I don't use this document as much, or this part of it as much, because I have QuickBooks and it's really useful for that capacity of things. But like this is perfect, especially if you're just starting out, because you want to minimize your expenses. But it is nice to go in here and kind of like estimate things. It's really what this is used for me. And we're going to kind of scroll through here. I made a little sub worksheet on the side here for a home office. So if you're working from home, so this office is in my home. This is a home office. I kind of broke down a little formula here for that. And again, like you definitely want to run this through your tax accountant. This is for estimating, right? This isn't like I'm not a tax accountant. Okay. So just, I've done the best that I can with the information that I have and the experience I have. And it's kind of a good thing to like get an idea. So as you can see, there's a lot of expenses as we go through here, and I've outlined all the expenses that I've had, and I used the information over the course of my career to get these estimates. So every year I look at how much I spend and I take those averages and I've tracked that from the beginning. So definitely track your expenses from the very beginning and where your money's going. And I've taken those averages to get these estimates, right? That's how I would go about it. This is an example document. This isn't necessarily my averages, but that's how you want to do it. You want to take the averages from over the years, and as you go, those are going to get more accurate. So we get to the bottom here, and at the bottom here, we have our equipment broken down. So this is from my equipment, I think, more or less, but we have, there's a little error here, C300, I used to have a C300, now I have a C200. So basically, you have your different camera kits. This is a C300 kit. We have a Sony kit. We have our lights, our sound, our post. I'll make those bold. So this would be our edit suite. This is our sound kit. This is our light kit, right? And in here, we're going to put the amount of our gear. So let's say you bought your C300 for $10,000. You bought your CF cards. You bought your lens kit, your tripod, everything for that kit. And then we're summing that up here. So that's the total of that. And then this carries over to here. Those two are connected. So if I hit enter, you can see the connection. It's going to show you what the formula is. And then down below this is the upkeep. So the upkeep would be, replacing the cables or getting a new cable extension on your camera, getting your camera clean, getting your lenses cleaned, like things like that maintenance that you have with your camera. You want to plan for that because it's going to happen. And this number right here, this 800 for the upkeep, is over the course of 3 years. Okay, so I might not have any upkeep on my C200 this year or next year, but then all of a sudden I have $800, and that's kind of how it works. So you want to plan for upkeep. That's super important. And then next to this, you have uses to pay off. So you decide how quickly you want to pay off your gear. You want to be realistic. And again, this goes back to being in line with the market. So you could go to like lensrentals.com and find out how much your camera rents for, and sort of try to get your pricing aligned with that. That's probably a good idea because you don't want to overcharge people. You want to be competitive. So 30, I'm going to say 30 uses to pay this off. So after I've shot with it 30 times, my camera's going to be paid off, and that's awesome. And I'm still going to charge people after for that. So if I'm filming and I have my C200 and I've paid it off, I still charge, and then I'm making money on my gear. So that's your goal, is to make money in your equipment, right? So this 3-year period, and this formula down here is going to be the cost of the camera plus the cost of upkeep divided by the 30 uses. And this is going to be your rate per day for your camera, just your camera. So if you go and you're a cinematographer, and you're a DP, you show up and you're like, yo, what's up? My day rate's $800. C200 package is $684. Or we can go with the Sony kit, $469. Don't matter to me, right? So you have the ability to pay off your gear and then make money on it. So that's super important, because then ideally is you save that extra money and then you buy a new camera or a new lens, whatever, right? I'm gonna check on the comments real quick. Aaron's asking, as a freelancer, do I pay quarterly taxes or once a year? A lot of businesses are required to pay quarterly estimates. on their taxes. Yeah, so Aaron, I made a video. I will link it below after in the comments about paying quarterly taxes. I actually talk about that in a method called the safe harbor method for paying your quarterly taxes in the most beneficial way for you. And this is for the United States again. So I don't know how that looks in other countries. But yes, I pay quarterly taxes. I use the safe harbor method to do it. Hey, how's it going, man? Lucas, what's up, dude? I'm glad you could tune in. Lucas worked with me for a long time. He's a good homie. All right, so that's how we were gonna price our equipment over here, I kind of do that for the edit suite, light kit, sound kit. So if someone's showing up and they're saying like, oh, we want you to come with your C200. Oh, do you have sound? Yeah, I do have sound. It's only $50 extra for the day to add the sound. That's such a nice thing to be able to say. You don't want to forget charging for everything, basically. So let's see. There's some information on the side here, and you can kind of dig into that if you want. It basically breaks down the formula. So you have the cost of gear, which is A, plus B, which is your annual upkeep for that gear, divided by C, the desired uses to pay it off. That's the formula for all of this, and I've already built that there for you guys. So now we're going to move into what I think is probably kind of like the most exciting element of this for you guys, and probably what you've been waiting for is like, how do I price my freaking like rate, right? Like that's what you really want to know. So we're going to first look at the solo filmmaker rate, okay? So again, if you just tuned in, we're doing a pricing workshop here, like a freelance pricing thing. So if you're a photographer, videographer, graphic designer, you should be able to apply the core basics of all of this to your work and use this to price your work. The solo filmmaker tab that we're on here is a breakdown of how to price your work as a solo filmmaker, which I explained earlier is like kind of like a start to finish. Like you concept, you shoot, you edit, you deliver, just by yourself. No one else helps you. That's what this is for. So first things first, days in a year, 365 days in a year. And then we have weekends. So basically we need to figure out how often we're going to work. That's step one, is how often can we work and how often will we be able to work. So we're going to break down the days in the year, 365 days. We're going to get rid of the weekends because we like to chill on the weekends. 104, we have 104 weekends a year to chill, which is super dope. And then you gotta have vacation days for extra chilling. So in this is kind of the best part of like being a freelancer, is you get to like pick. You get to say, I want to have 4 weeks of vacation. Sick. It doesn't always work out that way, so this is kind of like the ideal situation. But it is really cool to be able to be, like yeah, I want to take that time off. Sick days, because people get sick. 10, maybe that's high. I don't know. You guys have to decide what you're going to do for your own situation. And then now we have we're going to add up all the time off, right? So we've done a addition of the weekdays, vacation days, and sick days. And that's 134 days a year for chilling, minus 10 sick days if you're sick, and that's not chill. And then we're going to look at how many days we have to work based on days in a year minus the time off. So realistically, there's 231 days in a year, less your holidays, your sick days, and your weekends. So 231 days in a year where you can actually do work, okay? And then this next category here is your average days to complete a project, right? So again, we're talking about solo filmmaker approach, where you're creating something just by yourself. And you need time for pre-production, you need time to shoot it, and you need time to edit it. So in this example, we have, maybe we have a full day of pre-production, planning, all that stuff. You have a full day of shooting, and you have 2 days of editing. Or maybe you do 2 days pre-production, 1 day of shooting, 1 day of editing, right? So you need to figure out how many, this is, again, very personal. You have to figure it out, and you can look at your past experiences to help you figure that out. Average days to complete a project, figure that out. And now we're going to take the work days divided by the average days to complete the project and divide them, and you're going to get 58. So if you were able to have a project every single day that you could work, you'd be able to do 58 projects in the year. Hell yeah, brother. That's awesome. But that's not realistic, because you're going to have internal time lost. Internal time loss is going to be the days that you spend doing your accounting. It's going to be the days that you spend researching new equipment, testing new equipment, like all of those things, preparing for your tax season, all of the things that are related to renewing your LLC, all the stuff that's related to like having a business, running a business that is not going to be billable, right? So you're going to have a lot of internal time loss for your freelance work. And I put a note here. So basically the 12 here is not the amount of days, because the unit that we're working in is projects. So we have 4 days to complete an average project, and we have 12 units of internal time loss for the days to complete a project. So I've made that note right there that says that would actually be 48 days. So in an entire year, you would have 48 days when you're not billing for your work. You're actually doing other work to be able to do the work. So I hope that makes sense. And then bid loss. So you're going to bid on projects and you're not going to get them. That's going to happen. So you got to be ready for that, and you got to calculate that into your formula for your pricing, because every single project you bid on, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. So you got to plan for that to be prepared. And again, that's kind of follow the same formula as this. So now we have our projects per year that we could do minus the internal time loss minus the bid loss. And this is the realistic projects per year. 31 projects per year is realistic, okay? And then down here, we're going to follow the formula we have up in the box up here, which is the project pricing formula. And this is what I learned from Story and Heart. So I plugged them earlier, and I'll link them below so you guys can check them out. But this is a formula they learned and then they shared, and it's super, super useful. So it's super simple formula. You have your desired pre-tax income. So we've decided that our desired pre-tax income up here is 90 grand. And again, that's a personal choice. You want to make $90,000 in a year because you need to survive, right? That's your how much money you want. And that is going to link down here. So I could change this to 100 if I wanted to. And now it's 100 down here. We're going to keep it at 90. And then you have B, which is your project cost times project per year plus cost of business. So cost of business, let's look at that first. That is your expenses. And that is coming from your expense tab, which is over here, which we reviewed. Up here, this is the total amount of your expenses, right, for the entire year. And that number is referenced right here. So if you change anything in your expense tab, it's going to update in this other sheet. So everything's dynamic. It all links together. It all works together. So like when you change your expenses, it's going to update your pricing. This is super useful. And then project cost. So in this situation, your project cost is actually going to be the equipment cost, and the equipment cost is being pulled from the expense sheet, right? So if we go down here and we look at our camera cost right here, our total cost for equipment. Sorry, and this is kind of complicated, so you got to stick with me here. Your total cost for equipment divided by 3 years, because I want to pay it off in 3 years. That's my goal. This is my total cost. This is camera, light, sound, everything. And we're doing a solo filmmaker, so everything's included. I'm building all of my gear, all of my costs for all of my equipment into the price that I'm going to charge the client. So there's basically, I'm going to show up to the client and say it's $5,000, and it's going to say it includes everything, editing, camera, everything, which is super nice. So we're building the cost of our equipment into our rate for the solo filmmaker. So our total gear cost, camera, sound, lights, post, divided by 3 years is $14,917, and that's carried over here. Equipment cost per year, $14,917, and then up here we're going to divide the equipment cost by our realistic projects per year, which is 31. So that's going to basically, if you do 31 projects in a year and every project you charge $485 built into your rate, you're going to be able to pay off your equipment that way. I hope that makes sense. And it is a little dense. For me, it was in the beginning to like get this. So back down here, we have our equipment costs built in. We have our expenses built in, and that's B. Okay, and then C is projects per year, so that references this cell. And then down here, we're gonna run this formula, A plus B divided by C, and we have our project cost. So in this scenario, we have $28,000 in expenses. We own $45,000 worth of gear, and we want to have $90,000 as our pre-tax salary, and we think we're going to do 31 projects in a year. So we need to charge $4,334 per project to make that happen. And I've broken that down into an hourly below, and the hourly is more so for you internally, or that's how I use it. I'm not a big fan of sharing the hourly with the client unless they really want to know, and then I can and I will. But basically, I want to keep it high level when I'm dealing with a client in terms of cost. It's just easier for everyone. It's more about the project and what they're getting, and not about the money. I don't want to make it about the money. The money is calculated specifically for me to be able to live my life, right? It's not, I'm not trying to rip anyone off. It's calculated for that, and then you compare that to the market, so it's competitive, right? So you should feel good about going into a project. If you run this formula and you do this for yourself and you figure it all out, you can go into a project and feel good about the cost that you're presenting to someone and say, this is how much it costs, not arbitrarily. This is how much it costs for me to do this for a living, right? And that's the most important element, right? So hourly is kind of just for yourself to be like, cool, I make $125 an hour, or whatever, right? All right, I'm going to check in on the comments real quick. Let's see. All right, so we've got Kazakhstan. Is that how you pronounce that? Hey, Duncan. Yeah, Terry. So as you guys are tuning in here, the spreadsheet that I have is available on my website. I dropped a link up above, and right now it's priced at $10. That's what it's priced at right now. I kind of put that up randomly. But at the end of this, I'm going to ask you guys what you think it's worth after we've gone through the whole thing, so then you guys can have access to it. So we're gonna jump into the let's see how long we've been going here. I don't even know. Anyways, so right now we're gonna jump into the DP rate, production company rate, and then we have an income tracker at the end. So shouldn't take too much longer to get through these since we already did one. But this is a good time to look at the way to have multiple pricing approaches for your work. So now we're looking at a DP rate. So let's say you do the solo filmmaker work, but you also get hired by production companies from time to time as a cinematographer or as a DP, and you're part of their crew, right? So you need to figure out what your rate would be for that. And I think that this rate and calculating your DP rate, for me, is more about having the minimum, okay? Because there is a market value for DPs. And every market has that sort of range. And in that range, you want to be in an appropriate level, right? So let's say that, from my experience previously living north of Boston in New Hampshire, there's not a huge market there, but the range for like a DP there was like maybe like $800 a day on the very low end, and then the high end might have been like $2,400, right? And when I was living there, like I kind of felt like, I was gonna price my DP rate at like $1,200 to 1,800 a day. That was kind of like where I felt like I landed based on my skills, based on my experience in that market at that time. So that's kind of what I went with. And I knew what my bottom rate would be because of the formula. So if we look at this formula, same thing, days in the year, blah, blah, blah. We get down to the work days. And if you guys are tuning in now, I went over this entire process previously, so you can skip back and watch that and then apply it to this part. The big difference here is average days to complete a project is 1, because you're a cinematographer. You're showing up, you film, you leave. Like that you want your day rate, right? And then you have your projects per year, which is a lot higher. And then you're going to have your internal time loss, your bid loss, and then you're going to have realistic projects per year. So you need to figure out all this stuff for yourself and what's realistic for you. But based on, this template formula, you have 141 days in the year where you could be a DP and you could get paid. And that works out. I put a nice little formula here to find out what that would be per week. So if you average shooting 3 days a week, then that's 141 a year. So if you think you can get 3 days of DP work in a week, and that's kind of what your average would be, then this is realistic. If you don't think that that's the case, then you're going to want to adjust your formula here. Maybe do 65 internal loss, and now we're at 21. And this is still, I think it's just rounding up. Let's see if we do 95 there. Yeah, so now we're at 2 a week, right? So all this stuff works together and changes as you make any changes to the numbers. So apply the same formula. Pre-tax salary, same thing. And this is linked, the pre-tax salary is linked to the solo filmmaker rate in this document. So if I go over here and change this to 110, say I want to make 100 or 111, right? It's going to update over here, and it's going to update everything. All of the numbers update with it. We're going to keep it at 90. And then down here, this is a little bit different because you don't have any project costs if you're working for a production company. You still have expenses, and those might be different if you're, just a DP. You probably have a lot less expenses. Maybe not. I don't know. But your project cost is 0 now because you don't have. You're not responsible for that stuff. And in this formula, I've actually broken down the camera package as a separate line item on the bottom instead of building it in. Because for the solo filmmaker thing, I think it's really nice to say to a client, everything's included. Production company doesn't want that. They don't want everything included. They want the C200. They want the Sony. They want to rent their own camera. I don't want to include that. I want to have it as a separate thing. So I've kept it separate. And so down here, your rate for a DP would be $839, okay? And then your camera package, if we look at this formula, it's referencing the expense sheet, and it's actually referencing the day rate for the C200 right here. And the Sony package is referencing the day rate for the Sony kit. And it's just adding those together. So say you're a cinematographer, you know your day rate, bottom base day rate is $839 based on this formula. And someone comes to you and says, I want to do this project with you. I want your C200 package. What's the best you can do? You can say, with my camera, the best that I can do is $1,523. But maybe your rate in the market is actually $1,000, right? So let's say your DP rate in the market is $1,000 because you want to be competitive. You would then start there. You'd say my day rate is $1,000 plus my kit is $684, and then maybe they can't afford it. Maybe whatever, and you want to give them a deal because you want to work with them. Maybe they're a nonprofit. I don't know. You could say the best I can do for you on this project, production company, is $1,523. And then you need a cutoff. You need a spot where you say no. Okay. So, I didn't break this down on the other one. So we're gonna look at this little sheet over here on the right. So the gross here. So gross income is the total. So let's say that in this situation, you worked 141 days and you billed $839 a day. Your total gross income is $118,343. Okay. And then next you have your cost of goods sold. In this situation, there isn't any. And then you have your expenses. And then down here for taxes, I've done a formula here that is the gross minus your cost of goods sold minus your expenses times 0.3, which is 30%. And that is, I'm not a tax advisor. That is purely just like an estimate, right? So like when I lived in New York City, I found that I was on average paying like 30% in taxes, or like 35 or something like that, right? So that you need to adjust this box based on the information that you have for your situation, okay? But when you do it, you can then see how much you have for quarterly, and then you're also going to have this down below, you have your net annual. So that's going to be your gross minus your cost of goods minus your expenses minus your taxes. So you made $118,000. Sweet. Get rid of the expenses, get rid of the cost of goods sold, get rid of your taxes. This is how much you're going to have in your bank account at the end of the year, $63,000. So that's a lot less than what you brought in at the business gross. So it's important to know that information. It's a really nice tool to have. All right, I'm going to check back in on questions, and then we're going to do the production company tab, and we'll kind of review. I think we'll start there on the production company tab because there's a little bit bigger numbers there. Caroline, is Portland like Chicago in terms of video work opportunities? I don't know. I would guess that Chicago is there's more opportunity than Portland because it's, I think, the third biggest city in the United States. New York, LA, Chicago. So I think that there's probably a massive opportunity in Chicago for video. It's just about getting out there and getting that work. Ghost Anime, I like that. $10, you think it's fair? That's sick. So you're the first person to weigh in. I appreciate that. So if you guys are tuning in right now, we are digging deep into this pricing formula template that I've created, and we are in the production company rate tab. So I'm going to review this quickly. It's similar to the other two. So if you are tuning in now, go back, watch the solo filmmaker rate portion, and that's going to explain a lot of this. So days in a year, again, we've calculated the work days, same as the other one. The average days to complete a project for the production company. So the production company is a bigger beast, right? So you're going to be doing a bigger entity. And in this example, we have 20 days, right? So adjust it for your needs, and then projects per year, 12. So work days divided by the days to complete the project. Internal time loss, again, internal time loss is gonna be this times average days, and that's gonna be your amount. So you're gonna have 40 days of internal time loss, and then bid loss. So down here you have realistically 6 projects per year in this model for a production company, right? And I think that if you're looking at this tab, there's a lot of different scenarios where you do a lot of small projects and you make a certain amount of money and you make your goal, or you do 6 big projects in a year and you charge more money and you make your goal, right? So there's different scenarios. This might be a scenario that if you're like a commercial photographer or something like that, and you're doing these big ad campaigns for big companies and they're putting them, on billboards, on buses, and they're all over the place, and in magazine ads and stuff like that. That's a much higher price tier. So you might be looking at a thing that's like this, or like a production company. And this is definitely a small production company. So same thing, desired pre-tax salary for yourself. This number is a lot bigger, and that is because your cost of goods is huge. So if you're running a production company, you're going to have to hire people. Your cost of making the production is going to be so much higher. Makeup, PA, stylist, camera operator, all these other people that you have to manage, your insurances, all these things are like add up. So this right here, again, you're gonna have to figure out that for yourself, but I've just put in 33%. So I'll break this down for you right here. The cost of goods sold annually is your expenses plus E1. E1 is your desired pre-tax salary. So your desired pre-tax salary plus your expenses times 33% that's your cost of goods sold, and that would, if you add those 3 things up, that would be your gross, which would be 172. So I think a lot of people, I think a general rule of thumb is like 50%. So for a cost of goods sold, 33 is probably low. So let's say you have a $100,000 project, you might expect to spend $50,000 of that project money making it. Not like paying yourself, but paying the crew, renting the gear, location permit, talent fees, all of that other stuff. 50% might go to that, and that would be your cost of goods sold for that project. So you can adjust that. You could go in here and adjust that and make that 0.5, and that would be 50%. Right? But your cost of goods sold is built into your pricing, so that affects your gross. So now my gross is 192, but my net annual, which is your take home, right, is the same. So if you watch this net annual, it's 77,916. If I go over here and I make my cost of goods sold 33%, same thing, 77,916. And that's because the client is paying for the cost of goods sold. That's not something that's a cost that you need to cover for your project. If you can be lean, you can charge your client less, and pass that along to them if you want, or maybe you plan for 50% and then you actually spend 30% and then you made 20% on it. That's super dope. You're making more money on top of this. And then we also have the gear rental built into this. So this one's a little bit more complicated, but it's the same formula, and you're gonna get to the same place in terms of all the calculations here. So I'm gonna check in one more time. Terry Ray, cool, awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna have a sip of water here, and we're gonna get to the last tab in this, which is the income tracker. And then once we finish the document, we can do like a quick Q&A, and I have some other points that were shared from other filmmakers that I can share with you guys that are just important things to know about pricing. All right, so this last tab's a little labor intensive for yourself when you're using it, but I think this last tab is a good way to easily see how much money you've made, where you made it, and you can kind of just do it as you work, right, throughout the year. And if you're using QuickBooks or something like this, again, this Excel sheet is probably going to be more of like a forecasting pricing tool to figure out your costs for your pricing, and you might not use this tab. But if you're not using QuickBooks, you could use this to kind of like get that bigger picture of your business throughout the year. And early on, like I didn't get QuickBooks until, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years into it. I probably should have got it earlier, but I was a little stubborn. I didn't want to spend the money. I was trying to keep my costs down. So yeah. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have quarter one, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So quarters are the year. So Q1 is 3 months. So January, February, March. Q2 is 3 months, April, May, June, so on throughout the year. So each quarter is 3 months, and you kind of break that down in here for the work that you do. So we have their 3 categories: solo filmmaker, DP, production company. And then down here we have quarter one. So quarter one, we did a project for a production company called Spicy Hot Creative Agency. And we made a taco eating contest film. Super dope. And we build them, 1 unit. So this is either going to be days or projects. And production company work is based on projects, not days, versus DP is days. And the rate was our rate over here, which is 310047. And that's referencing that cell, right? So let's say that I wanted to make an adjustment. I'll do that later, sorry. So, and then we also have our cost of goods sold. And so for each project, we're going to put that in, and you would want to put in what you actually build. So this sheet is saying that we build what we thought we'd bill, and it all worked out, super nice, which doesn't happen, but this is just an example, and it's for you to work through your stuff here. But yeah, so you went through here and you had a good time. You did your solo filmmaker project with super sweet creative agency. Did a sleeping bag brand film. You got a little university B-roll pickup shoot with Apple's production company. You charged them your day rate. You didn't have any cost of goods, so your cost of goods are over here. So on the production, you spent some money on the cost of goods on your team, right? and so on. So throughout the year, you did all these projects, maybe, whoa, Steel Blade production company, sick. I bet that's actually a production company. I just made all these up. I'm sure that some of these are real, which is hilarious. Taco Smasher Bar. Anyways, so for the DP stuff in here, you're actually working on days. So Q4 looks like you actually did a bunch of DP work and no production company work. No, like you didn't act as a production company. You were just DP for other production companies. So you had this month where you just DP'd a ton. It looks like you worked every week, 5 days a week for 4 weeks, right? That's cool. So you may, or over the course of 3 months, whatever. But you have these rates and they add up. And then up top here, these reference the cells below. And this is kind of where it gets a little bit more manual. You'd have to update these yourself and like do that. So like, let's say Q2, this wasn't here. I would go in here and I'd hit equals Q2 solo filmmaker, and I would type in sum, which is the formula to calculate, click and drag those, close that, and now I have my sum. So that's adding up all those cells. But I didn't have any cost of goods sold with that, which is sweet. And so all of that, do that for all your quarters, and then over here you have your gross, and that's going to add up solo filmmaker revenue. And then this is going to add up your DP revenue, and this is going to add up your production company revenue. And then down here, you're going to see your total gross from your 3 categories and your total cost of goods, same formulas where they add up each quarter. And then down here, that's going to look at your COGS, cost of goods. So for the year, you can say, oh, okay, I did 115,515. I only spent 1,300,988 on my cost of goods sold, and then my net before expenses. So my gross minus my cost of goods sold. My net before expenses is 101. Sweet. I spent 28,000 whatever on expenses. So my net pre-tax, so that would be your salary, was 73,184. And then your tax on that, again, you need to replace that with what it worked for you. And then your take home is going to be your tax minus the net pre-tax. So like this is how much you would make in this scenario. So, if you're looking at this and you kept track of all your projects through the year, your take home was 51,000. And if we go back to the overview, your take-home goal was 58. So you didn't hit it, but you got more than your minimum, which was 40. And those are based on, again, your needs and what you need for yourself to live and your family to live and everything like that. So you did good. You didn't do great, but you did good, right? So, and you charged based on your formulas, and then the next year you would iterate and kind of adjust your pricing and look at it that way, Whew. Wow. Okay, so questions on the document? I know it's a big document there. So if you have questions on that document, drop them below. If you have questions on pricing, drop them below. I am going to pull up the questions that people dropped on my Instagram real quick and see if I didn't answer them. So Ryan asked, hourly editing rate versus project rate, how to determine which is better for a job. So Ryan, if you are using this formula in this document, you will know your hourly rate, and you also be able to determine a project rate. I personally, again, I'm always going to go for a project rate, even in that way, unless it's a individual or production company or something and they want to know your hourly rate, and that's fine. Usually if I'm working with an agency or a marketing department, it's a project rate. It's $5,000, and that's what it is for me to edit the project. And I'm probably going to base that off of my own hourly rate that I figured out based on this formula, so I know that I'm getting paid what I need to get paid. But I don't usually share the hourly rate. How do you factor in having to rent gear, but also having money for yourself? Okay, so if you're using this formula, you're going to have your rate, which you've determined based on the formula. So let's say your DP rate, and you're using DP rate, which is $839 a day as the minimum, but the market around you is a grand for DP. You know, that's what it is. So you have your rate as a DP, and then the client, you know, need a camera. You're either going to rent them your camera, or you're going to add on those rental expenses to the bill. So you might have a line that says DP rate 3 days, $1,000 a day, so it's $3,000, and then camera package rental for 3 days, $800, $3,800 is your total cost. So you want to charge for the gear rentals. You never want to eat that yourself unless you're doing it intentionally. And I still don't think you really want to do that. You really want to get the gear needed for the job, and then have the client pay for that, because that's really not your responsibility. And if you're using your own gear, you want to charge the rate that's appropriate for your own gear. Let's see. How do you figure out your day rate as a camera operator / DP? So I answered that, Nigel, with this whole worksheet. So use a worksheet to figure out what works for you, and then ask around town to find out what's competitive. And you might even maybe it's $1,000 is competitive, but you want room for negotiation, so you might say $1,200. You know, I don't know, depends. But yeah, that's how I do it. All right, let's see. You guys got some questions over here. Do you add in and calculate online sales for LUTs, presets, affiliate links, products, ad revenue, as far as how it affects your desired income, or is this just extra? So Aaron, for myself, YouTube and the income that I am earning from YouTube is just extra, especially at this point, because it's almost negligible, I guess, for the amount of work that I put in. You know, and it's not really like the point. So it's just kind of like, I mean, yeah, like I would be super stoked if my YouTube channel was, you know, generating $40,000 in revenue a year. That would be awesome. But, you know, I think that takes a lot of time, and, you know, that would be a nice extra thing. So I'm not calculating any of this income. You know, if you guys buy this worksheet or anything like that, that's not calculated into that. It's more of just like a fun side project, I guess. My bread and butter is freelancing for sure. And if things shifted, who knows? I would probably make a new worksheet. Oh, Dante Richardson coming in 65 for the spreadsheet. That's dope. I like that. Sheet should be free. I don't know anyone that charges for this stuff. Okay. So we've got one free. We've got a lot of people who said 10 is fair. Someone who said 65 is respectable. I'm curious what your percentage... I'm going to read this real quick. Hold on. Your percentage... Okay, so Will, you're asking the percentage of time for my social media versus video production work and percentage of revenue for each. So basically, I think what you're asking me is how much money do I make as a freelancer as a percentage versus how much money I make doing Nick's Fort as a social media channel, and the time that I spend on each. So I have not calculated that. But give me a second. I have a decent idea how much money I made on YouTube this year. It's like $900 or something maybe. It's very, and I'm not saying that's not something, and I am super appreciative of that. But it's pretty negligible compared to my freelance income. Let's see. I don't even know. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. But the time that I spend on my YouTube channel and the time I spend doing freelance work is like probably like almost 50%. So I spend like half my time doing freelance and half my time doing my YouTube channel. Like this content, even this live stream right here, I spent my entire day yesterday preparing for this and honing in this document. And this document itself, I think, took me 2 weeks to build originally. So like I built it for myself for my freelance business, but like honing it in for you guys and kind of like making it something that you could use as a tool versus like just the one that I made for myself took me like 8 hours to like do that, plus figure out what I was going to talk about and talk to some other creatives and all that stuff. And now we've been doing this for an hour, and this is just a live stream. So like the other content I create on this channel like is taking a lot of time. You know, like it takes me a lot of time to come up with the idea, to structure it out, to film it, to edit it. I definitely put a lot of effort into this, but I really enjoy it. You know, like there was a time period when I first started freelancing that I was doing like substitute teaching. So I just enjoy teaching. I think it's fun, and like I love that. Like I wish there was me 11 years ago when I started. I had some mentors that were awesome, and they helped me a lot. But like, man, it would just be so cool, and it is cool. I think to just be able to be like, here's this thing that you know, like, oh, like you don't have to think about making it. It's already made for you and explained, and like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Only half human. $1 million. Oh. Yeah, Dante, I think that, you know, like you're saying 65 is like, yeah, I mean, I get it. You're saying that the spreadsheet could be worth that much because of the volume. If my channel had, you know, 200,000 subscribers and there was, you know, if I looked at the volume of the sale, $10 could be a lot. You know, like if you have a big channel and a lot of subscribers, $10 can be a lot of money, you know, per unit. But I don't have a huge audience, and like the amount of money I'm not doing it for the money anyways. But yeah, I get it, Dante. That makes sense. All right, so I've got a couple more notes in here. Actually, you know, before you guys take off, I am gonna do something. Let me see. I've got a couple notes I want to share just on like the pricing your stuff a little bit more. But I do have one note here. So if you want, I did make a coupon code for, and actually, what I'm gonna do, hang with me for 1 second because I think some people already bought the sheet. So if you already bought the sheet, then I'm gonna, as of, you know, right now, 10/17. So 2 people already bought the sheet. So those 2 people, I'm pretty sure I have your email from that order. Yeah, I do. So I have your email from that order if you bought the sheet. So the people that bought the sheet already, I'm gonna send you my LUT pack for free, because I'm gonna hook you up with that. And that there's 2 of you guys. So thank you so much for buying the sheet straight out. That's awesome. And then for everyone else, I made a coupon code for all my stuff. So like my LUTs, my presets, and the sheet. You can use it on all 3 if you want, and the coupon code is going to get 50% off. So you're going to stay 50% off the LUTs, 50% off Lightroom presets, and 50% off the pricing sheet. And the coupon code is, I'll put it in the chat right now. And it's actually going to come from my other channel, which is like just kind of like my modeling channel. It's called The Dude's Guide. Coupon code. So if you use the Fort 2018 all caps, you're gonna get 50% off. So the pricing sheet would be $5, and my LUTs would be, I think they're like 20, so they'd be $10. So hopefully you guys can get a good deal out of that, and that's gonna be for the next week. So if you're watching this now and you didn't hit the live stream, that deal expires December 5th. What up, E? My boy Ian Frisch is in here. We did a, I'll drop the link below also for the video we did together. He's a journalist. We did a storytelling video together about how to tell stories in your vlogs and stuff, and it's really, really helpful. Ian, I don't get your comment. I think that it's you're trolling me, and it was about something I said at the time, and I'm not like paying attention to the feed as I talk. So, but okay, if you guys have any last questions, throw them out there. If not, I'm gonna sign off pretty soon here, and I hope that this is useful for you guys, and I hope that you get out there and price your work appropriately. And that is, oh wait, yeah, I do have some other notes. Hold on. So what happens if a client says it's too much? That's a question that I didn't answer, and I wanted to answer. So basically, you don't want to undervalue yourself. You might want to find a different approach. You might readjust what's happening. So they might say, we want this thing from you. And you say it's $10,000. And they say, oh, that's too much money. We only have $5,000. Well, then what you could do is you could say, okay, I'm going to give you this other thing that's worth $5,000. So you adjust your time and you say, we can do, maybe they wanted 3 videos. They're a minute long each. And they want it for 10 grand, right? Or they want it for $5,000 and you would have charged 10. So what you could say is, we're going to do 1 video that's a minute long and then 2 social edits for $5,000. So you would adjust the deliverable. So you're still making the appropriate amount of money for the amount of money that they have, right? So you want to do that. You don't want to undervalue your work or adjust it based on the lack of money that they have. And if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. You're gonna find you're gonna find the right clients that want to pay you the right amount of money. But it's a volume game. You're gonna have to find those people. It's not for everyone, right? Just like, the pricing worksheet's not for everyone. There's certain people out there that won't buy it because it's not for them, and that's fine. It's cool. Same with your clients, same thing. So you got to find the right people, have the right amount of money for the work that you're doing. And this is kind of like, all right, don't get the job, right? So if you don't get the job, there's going to be more work, especially in video and photo, especially in video. In this day and age, there's just like a ton of work, so don't worry about it. If you have to have a side hustle, you have to have a side hustle. If you have to grind on something else while you do passion pieces to show that you know what you're doing, do that. But it's really important. It's really, really important. If you want to do this full time, if you want to be a full-time freelancer in the video world, you have to make enough money to pay for your life. So important. If you start cutting the price down, you're just going to race to the bottom, and this will not be your job. So it's either this is going to be your job and you're going to charge appropriately, or it's not. And that's fine if it's not. You can do something else. You could work for someone full time. You do whatever you want. Like that's fine. But like, if you want to make this a long-term sustainable thing, you need to charge appropriately. All right. All right, Aaron, you got a question? I have a question. Yeah, Aaron, you have a question in private. That's fine. Send me a DM on Instagram. And we can connect on there, or you can send me an email, and I will get back to you. All right, guys, that was awesome. I hope that this was useful for you guys. And I am not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to put out a video this week on my channel. I am going to try. I have some really cool stuff lined up in the pipeline. And if not, at least we got this, right? All right, guys, have a good rest of the week and enjoy yourselves.